So I guess the video for today is a different kind of video, because I won't be showing you guys that I'm building some kind of project back at the homestead, but instead I will tell you a story. And that is actually a story that I have never shared on this channel, and it's also in a way an origin story for me as a tiny house guy, and in a way also this channel. It is the story of how my tiny house was stolen, and how that in a way turned me into this full-time influencer that I am today, not only here on YouTube but also when I'm out and about in Denmark and doing presentations. So, but right now I'm on the hunt for some blackberries, because it is blackberry season here in August, September, and I have a serious craving for blackberries, so I hope that I find some. So I managed to find just enough berries for my dessert, and we are on our way home now to make the porridge. But before I do that, I will just get started on my story. So why did my tiny house get stolen? So we are back in 2018, and at the time I lived in Aarhus, which is the second largest city in Denmark. And I had a job in the municipality with some city development stuff. And on the side I had a volunteer job where we packaged some local organic produce from local farmers and sold it to people in the city. And then one evening I returned home from a shift to my colony garden. I don't know what the name is in English, but it was a small garden house where I lived at the time, and it was like 16 square meters, so it was indeed also a tiny house, but it was not the one that got stolen. But it was this amazing place with a small terrace, and I had a lovely garden and an apple tree, and I really enjoyed being there. But I also couldn't stay there during the winter, because we weren't allowed to live there during the winter. So therefore I wanted to build this small mobile tiny house, which was like, the trailer that I built it on was 170 by 320 centimeters, so it was fairly small. But I wanted to build a small tiny house, because then in the winter time I could go out and visit small eco-villages around Aarhus, and then interview them about how life is in an eco-village, and then also be a part of it myself. And then I wanted to write a book about all of that, because I wanted to be a writer, and I wanted to gain some experience, and I wanted to learn how life was in these eco-villages. So I decided that I wanted to have this very organically built small tiny house that would kind of blend in with those communities and with their philosophy as well. So I was like well on my way building this house. I had put up the walls and the roof, and I had installed the windows, I had insulated it on the inside, and I was making ready for putting up the sidings on the outside of the house when I returned home this evening. And I was looking forward to get at it and be working on my house, but instead I just stared at these two tracks in the mud where the house just used to be, and now there was nothing. And I was in a total shock. So I called my mom and told her about what had happened. And she was like, "But did you lock the front door?" And I was like, that's totally irrelevant because the entire house is stolen. And that was just so crazy. And by the way, I hadn't installed a door yet in the house, but that was that. But anyways, the house was gone, and I was pretty shocked about it, and I didn't expect it because we don't have much crime in Denmark. Of course, we have some, but I didn't expect anyone to navigate in and find my house in on this parking lot where I had parked my house. So it was quite strange that happened. So I was really shocked and also very sad about it, of course. So, but the next day I decided to go on Facebook and write a post where I made this missing tiny house post on Facebook, and a lot of people actually reacted to it quite instantly because it was quite the story. And of course it was picked up by the local media who actually called me after just an hour to ask me if this was indeed the case, and I had to confirm, my tiny house was indeed stolen. And then one journalist after another called me to check if the story was true and if they could make an interview with me. And I was out and about searching for my tiny house, and of course I couldn't find it. And then the weeks went by, and I was invited to some radio programs. And then in one radio program, a listener called in and told us that he had actually seen the house on the high road outside of Aarhus, northbound, which is actually in the same general direction as where I live today here on Djursland. And then I also started to be a little bit suspicious of some people in my local neighborhood, because there were some people digging up the road and fixing the road and such. And they gave me some information that did not at all correspond with the other types of information that I have heard. So I grew a little suspicious of them. Oh, there is a plane coming by. So I went and cross-checked their names and addresses with the information that I had gathered from around. And I could see actually that a lot of these people lived north of Aarhus, in the same general area as where the house had been seen lastly. I called my good friend Thomas and asked him to bring his black clothes because we were going on a mission to find these addresses and hopefully to see if we could spot my tiny house. So he came over and we went out, and of course we didn't find my house and we didn't want to trespass, so it was quite difficult, also because it was in the autumn and it was dark and it was a little bit windy, so it was not too easy to see what was going on inside of the properties. So we gave up the mission and we never did find my tiny house. So I have never gotten it back, and I often look around to see if I can see it when I drive around here in Djursland, but I never managed to find it. But luckily, you could say, this whole story actually opened up a completely new door in my life that I didn't really realize at the time. Doing this is just one of the favorite aspects of my lifestyle. Like, everything comes together in such a nice way. The calmness of nature and being outside and cooking over fire and harvesting like local berries and vegetables from the garden. It's it's quite the privilege to live like this. But anyways, back to my story. So after my house was stolen, I realized that I had to make quite a big decision, because I knew that I really wanted to try and live differently, and indeed also in a mobile tiny house. But having my house stolen was just such an emotional and also economic setback for me. So I really needed to think through what I wanted to do with my life, and then I decided during the winter that I wanted to give it a go. I wanted to try again. So the following spring, in 2019, I started building my new tiny house, which is actually the one that you have seen, most of you have seen on this channel, that I have lived in for the longest time. And that decision would just change everything, because when I started building my tiny house, I remember that I thought to myself that it would be fun if like the local media or maybe even national media would get a hold of the story, like this comeback kid story in a way, but also the story about like tiny living and how it is indeed possible to live in a different way, where you don't use as many resources and you are more closely connected to nature in the way that you live, because you harvest your own energy and water in the house. So that was indeed what I hoped for, and it was so easy for journalists to pick up on that story, because it was easy for them to find me, because I was already featured in the algorithm on the internet, because my name combined with the word tiny house was just already a thing. So when I started building my new house, this whole wave of journalists and TV programs just slowly started to present themselves. So first of all, the local media swung by and made an article about it. And then later on I went into national television, and I went into some podcasts. So I was just featured in a lot of programs and news articles and magazines and podcasts and whatnot for at least 3 or 4 years, and it's still going on. So, and I really ascribe all of that media attention to the fact that my house was stolen, because then it was easy for the journalists to find me on the internet. And from there on, it was just pretty easy for me to travel around in the country and do presentations about tiny living, and then I could earn a living telling my story. Then later on, in 2023, I think it was, or was it 22, I started this YouTube channel in Danish. And then in the spring of last year, I switched into English. And from there on, the channel actually just boomed. So now I'm just sitting here 3 or 4 years later, getting my salary from not only YouTube, but also the presentations that I do. So in a way, you could say it was kind of like a life-changing event for me, having my tiny house stolen. So even though it was pretty hard at the time, I'm actually still pretty grateful for it. So that was definitely a good decision to go with the pancakes. And now you know my story also, about how my tiny house was stolen and how that in a way turned me into this full-time influencer that I am today. And in the beginning of this video I also talked about that this was a different type of video, and it is actually also that for a different reason, because I think that this video might be a prototype for a different type of videos that I will also make, apart from the regular videos that I make on my channel. Because a lot of you have asked me if it was possible to donate to this channel. And I have given it a lot of thought, but I just couldn't really seem to figure out a good way to do it without me drowning myself in work, because the thing is that if people donate something to you, of course you need to give something back. And I would like to give some more videos back actually, but I just need to do it in a way where I can like survive producing them. And the thing that I can give back is videos. So I just need to figure out a good way to do that. And then I realized that I often miss having the opportunity to go deeper into some of the topics that I address in the bigger videos, because I actually have a lot of thoughts about the things that I say, but I normally don't have a lot of time to say it in those videos without it being like too long. But in a format like this, where I can just talk to the camera, then I can explain a bit more about the technical stuff or the philosophy or maybe the personal aspects of my journey. And I would very much like to do that, because I think that is something that I miss here on this channel. So that would be something that I could make in these smaller, maybe 10 minutes videos that you would get access to by being a member of this channel and paying some fee every month. I'll just need to figure out what that fee would be. So this is maybe a bit longer video, but this is an example of how such a video could look like. So please let me know if you think that this membership setup is a good idea, and yeah, just write below what you think about it. But thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it and maybe found some inspiration. See you again next time.